anything about that that would make you tend to award more money in this case?
I grew up in the public system, and we had girls from every end of the spectrum, which a lot of people don't realize until they get there.
Well,
I teach everything, so.
okay. I've got 3 girls, and I'll be calling on you in a couple of years, perhaps. But and you said, I think, that your fiance was involved in an accident.
He was when he was right out of high school.
Did he institute a lawsuit over that? Do you know?
I don't believe he did.
Ms. Sund, were your injuries to the spine at all, or were they all just head injuries?
No, he crushed the left side of my face and broke all the bones in my hand.
Okay. All right. What do you do at Cracker Barrel?
Retail.
I don't think anybody is self-employed on the jury. Is anybody self-employed? Or does anybody have a close family member or a very close friend who is self-employed?
I have like a side business from the fire department.
Okay.
Well, I'm just the only person that does it.
But the fire department is your main job? Mr. Crawford is an architect, as you've heard. Does anybody have a close friend or a family member who's an architect? Yes, ma'am.
My husband is an architect with Healthcare Realty Trust.
Ms. Standifer?
Yes, sir.
All right. And does he work in an office or out of his home?
He works in an office.
Okay. Does he do drafting?
They work mainly on medical office buildings, and he will do some drafting work, basically correcting other architects' work.
Okay. Does he sometimes have to do hours at a time of the drafting type work?
Yes, sir.
Does he sit at a drafting table to do that? If you know.
He sits over our island in the kitchen. And I'm sure at work, too.
One of the things that's being claimed in this case is that Mr. Crawford, as an architect, cannot do as much drafting on a permanent basis as he could before. Is there anything about your husband's occupation or what you've observed that would sway you or cause you to have a preconceived notion one way or the other on that issue?
Well, I've had neck surgery myself, and I know that leaning over when I was fully employed, it really bothered me.
And what did you do?
I was a benefits analyst at Aladdin Industries, and I had surgery by Dr. Greg Lanford, who is
Partners.
With Dr. Everett Howell. And I'm fine now. That was 10 years ago. They did a wonderful job. And but still, I cannot lift anything heavy, and I cannot lean over,
Okay.
for any length of time.
And so, based on your own experience and then knowing that your husband, knowing what's involved in the drafting work that your husband does, do you believe that you could be fair and impartial in deciding whether or not to award damages to Mr. Crawford for any drafting work he has to do?
I think I could be very fair and about this.
Could you also be fair not only as to whether or not to award any damages, but also in the amount of damages that you might award?
I would do my very best.
There are also a couple of witnesses that you may hear from in this case that weren't mentioned. One is David Menzel. Everybody know David Menzel? And the other is Dick Duval. Just want to make sure nobody knows Mr. Duval. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have.
Slips, please. Mr. Gibbons, Ms. Palmer, and Ms. Tant. You're excused if you'll have a seat back in the back, please, and thank you very much.
Linda Bagwell,
Back one up and around, please. This way.
Xavier Kidd, and Jeffrey Cordon.
Where's the last one?
Slips, please. Ms. Davis, you're excused, ma'am. If you'd have a seat back in the back, thank you very much.
Sharon Standifer,
Stand up. Up and around. Please, ma'am.
Ms. Standifer and Mr. Lewis, you all are excused. If you have a seat back in the back, we thank you very much.
Virginia Ferguson, and Carrie Gower.
Oops, please. Ms. Ferguson, you are excused, ma'am. If you'd have a seat back in the back, we thank you very much. If you will call someone going to have a seat in the number 2 position. For
Elizabeth Berger, Dennis Baker, Jackson Perry, Marianne Dix, Nicole Wade, David Brewer, and Gerald Wyatt.
Good afternoon. Now the new ones who've joined us. Starting with you, Ms. Berger, I'd ask that all of you please introduce yourselves to us as the others have. If you'd stand, tell us your name and address.
My name is Elizabeth Berger. I am married, have 2 grown children who grew up with one of the attorneys in this case. I unfortunately feel that I would not be fair and impartial.
Okay. That's exactly why we ask you all these questions, Berger.
Trying to save a little time, I'm sorry.
All right. I will excuse you for cause, ma'am. We thank you very much. Just have a seat back in the back.